Morning, everybody. Thanks so much for jumping on the call. We're really excited to have this opportunity to take a group down to South America at the end of July. Under the Meyer administration, we've kind of pivoted in how we organize our international trips. And for those of you like Stephen and Niraj that go back decades with us, we are moving away from chaining all of you exporters together and bouncing around to a specific set of cities. And we've pivoted more to we're going into a region and we want you to have the opportunity to go meet with the businesses that make sense for you when it makes sense for you. And we're lucky to have two great reps in Fabio Yamada and Juan Millan. They have decades of experience working with states, working with companies like you in their respective markets. So the overall mission, the Secretary of State and I are heading down to, we're going to be hitting during that week, the dates Emma mentioned, we're going to be hitting Santiago, Buenos Aires, and Sao Paulo. We're doing a little port work in Chile, but the rest of the trip for us is going to be focused primarily with the Secretary, focused primarily on corporate governance and talking with law firms about Delaware corporate law. As we did on our recent mission to India, we worked and had a group of exporters come in on the trip and went where the business made sense for them. Niraj was part of that and was able to intersect with the rest of the group in Hyderabad. We're hoping to have the same kind of model here on this trip to South America. So while I'm visiting the sequential order of my visit is Chile, Argentina, Brazil. If it makes sense for you to go Brazil, Chile, Argentina, or any combination thereof, that's what we want to focus on. If we can sync up with you guys with the larger group, that's always a wonderful thing. But the real opportunity that we're trying to facilitate with this trip is you meeting potential business partners. That's the absolute critical element from my mind. I want you to do business when it makes sense and where it makes sense. So if I'm there, that's wonderful. I don't need to be there, but we want to give you every opportunity to have the most successful business meetings that you can on this visit. So I'm going to turn it over to Fabio. So I've known Fabio for, gosh, Fabio, it's probably been 25 years at least. He's done several missions for us in the past. He does great work. He works for a number of U.S. states. He is very good, just like Juan, at making these B2B meetings on behalf of U.S. exporters. So we're in excellent hands with Fabio. And I'll just say to everybody, welcome aboard. We hope you can join the mission. We'll follow up after this, but please don't reach out to me or Emma for any questions. And I'm going to go off camera, and then I'll be seeing Fabio later on down on the exhibition floor. But thanks everybody for your interest. We hope that this will be a beneficial trip for you, for those of you that can join us. So with that, I'll turn it over to Fabio.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Emma, for helping to make this possible. Yes, as David said, we have been working for quite a few years. I have worked with David in several missions in the past, and I look forward in welcoming you to Brazil. So, to say the least, this is the right time to be in Brazil, even though you read a lot about Brazil, about the bad side of business, that has changed a lot in the past 10 years. So Brazil continues to be one of the largest economies in the world. It's considered like the ninth largest GDP with $2.3 trillion in 2025. We have 213 million consumers, but out of that, you may consider that maybe 15% have enough purchasing power comparable to any European countries. So if you consider 15%, still 30 million people are still, they have high purchasing power. In terms of territory, Brazil ranks number 5. And today, Brazil has been the magnet and the special point of attention of the U.S. because of the natural resources. Brazil is self-sufficient in oil. We have, let's say, fertile land, good weather 12 months per year. So we have, let's say, we beat records after records in crops. So agriculture is very, very important. Energy is abundant here. What we see today is the growth of solar energy is booming everywhere. Hydrogen products are spreading all over the country, even though there are issues of connectivity to the grid. But now we see the movement towards data centers coming in very, very strong. And we see the push of the US government again back to South America because the US government is really concerned about the Chinese investment in the region. So I would say that the reason why I'm here in Washington, D.C. is because we have lots of business going on between US and Brazil these days. In both ways, we have several Brazilian companies coming to the US to expand their business and several US companies investing in Brazil in those sectors that are just shared with you. So you may consider that Brazil is a superpower in terms of energy, water, abundant water, minerals, and food. So next slide, please, Emma. And we see potential in all these sectors. So there's a strategic alignment with Delaware business, chemicals, fintech, logistics, and manufacturing. Fintechs are growing like crazy. We have several unicorns doing business here in the US. They're expanding very, very rapidly because of inflation in past years in the 1970s and 1980s. Brazil has created a new breed of financiers that have been experts in dealing with international transactions in a legal way. So fintechs are really exploding in Brazil. But at the same time, that you have some brilliant minds. There's still a good demand for industrial equipment, financial services, additional financial services, as well as advanced materials, something that the country is not capable of manufacturing. And so, in my assessment, there is a complementarity in terms of business between Brazil and Delaware. So, what we see is the possibility of joint ventures and eventually technology transfer opportunities for both sides. So, this is going to be a win-win business proposition. Next slide, please. So, in terms of size and we have a young population, 230 million people. The population is really very, very active in social media. So it's ranked number 5 worldwide. Most of the cell phones are Android, 80%, 20% Apple-based. We have a growing middle class, fortunately, so it's very over to run. And there's a good brand recognition in terms of US brands. So everything that you bring in terms of American content is well perceived in terms of quality and performance. Next, please. So these are some of the factors that, based on my experience, have shown great potential. In terms of life science and pharmaceuticals, this is huge. Brazil has the 5 of the top South American hospitals, in Albert Einstein, the leading hospital in Latin America, and considered one of the top 5 hospitals in America. So the quality of service here is phenomenal. Chemical and advanced materials, something that I've already said. Fintechs, yes. Logistics and supply chain solutions. We just met with infrastructure 2 weeks ago. They were here in Brazil. We have investors in Delaware, so they're pursuing business here as well. So there's huge potential for logistics. And of course, clean energy and sustainability, given the vast Brazilian territory covered with sunlight 365 days per year. So next, please. There are some incentives on business-friendly reforms taking place because the country finally realized it cannot live in a shell. So the borders are opening, and there will be tax reforms to reduce the impact of taxes on the final product. Finally, this has been a struggle for the past 50 years. Now it's taking shape. Next. So these are some of the strategies for Delaware companies that we always comment or suggest. So ideally, you start with an importer, like an agent, local sales agent. Then you apply to a distributor, and then you come in your own corporation. The reason for that is working capital here in Brazil is very expensive. We're talking about working capital around cost of 20% per year. So most of the companies try to reduce their inventory to a minimum. So pretty much to start, you end up ordering the minimum amount required to do your sales so that you don't incur local additional costs in terms of working capital. Next, please. And the conclusion. Brazil offers a good scale of market in terms of market size, in terms of opportunity. Delaware can succeed in Brazil if they can provide products with a good quality that outperform the local the products that are available in the local market. So basically, even though there will be additional import duties on the products, but if the product can have a better performance than existing products, the cost benefit will play in favor of the US made product. So, and this is pretty much what we always teach uh, to international companies that want to do business. You have to build this image of bringing solid product with consistent quality, long lasting. So this is what's perceived by the local companies. Of course, there's competition from Asia, Chinese companies, European companies are coming to Brazil as well. But I'm sure that you have followed that US dollar is weakening since the beginning of this year. So this has brought more competitiveness to American products. The exchange rate between the US dollar and the Brazilian real has never been so favorable to US exports. In real terms, the exchange rate has fallen by 20% from, let's say, last September to April 26. So this is a major difference. So American products least 15 to 20% more competitive business. So I think that the only way for you to imagine or envision yourself in the Brazilian market is by coming. So I perceive this opportunity offered by Delaware as a great opportunity because you're going to count with our support. We have been doing this for 26 years so far. We have worked with more than 16 American states. We have represented more than 3 countries here. And matchmaking has been our specialty as well as connecting with high-level government officials and top corporations. So with this, I hand over to Rima, and Juan. Okay. Thank you so much for your attention. And by the way, the last slide, sorry, I forgot we had a last slide. Those were the companies that we visited with a delegation from Florida, led by the president of Select Florida. We visited Embraer, we visited Balduco. Those are two of the top Brazilian investors in Florida. So we paid a visit to them to thank them for their business. So we hope to do the same with the Delaware company. Thank you, Rema. I'll hand over to Juan so that he can continue.
Thank you, Fabio. Yeah, Juan, if you can jump on. And I know Forgive us for the audio quality today. We're working with what we have. Um, but Juan might have, here he comes. There we go. Perfect.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon. Can you see my screen? Okay, great. So I'm Juan Millán. I'm the CEO and founder of the Network. Me as Fabio, we are members of IBG. We represent over 20 American states in different countries. And we are very excited about presenting the opportunities for Chile and Argentina, two of the most dynamic markets worldwide. There are good reasons to consider them. And of course, if you ask an Argentinian or a Chilean, I think we have some Argentinians in the attendees, they will say they are the leaders somehow in the region, but we all know it's Brazil. But still, they will pretend. The good thing is, by now, both Chile and Argentina are aligned with your interests. So I will start with Chile, just give you some ideas in terms of size. GDP 305, like we are talking different in scale to Brazil. This different approach and with different opportunities. The thing about Chile is the size is enormous and distance will be determined in when you do business, mostly when you are in the agribusiness or mining, because it will determine your strategy. The most important thing in terms of indicators, GDP is growing and is growing steadily, and same as Brazil, energy is not a problem as it is in Europe or in any or even in some other parts of the world with this current situation. The main attributes of the economy is stability, even after years of pseudo-communist government, the countries perform quite well. It's one of the world leaders in resources. Like, for example, we will repeat that in terms of copper or lithium, two of the most demanded minerals with the new economy and energy are produced or in Chile. They also have a very open economy with 33 trade agreements, which position Chile as a good hub to access other markets in the region. You might not know, but most of the largest retailers are headquarters in Chile. That's a really good strategy when you are facing distribution for consumers. And in general terms, Chile is an open economy, like no capital controls, all the full profit repatriation. Like it is quite a very stable market for business, and it's been like this for years. Sectors, mining and industrial is brutal. You will know about it, and we will go into more details, but just the pipeline is over 100 billion, just in investment equipment, automation, or engineering. So if you are in these fields, there is a chance. Like I will be surprised that if you are in the mining industry, you are not already in Chile, because it's the market to be, and it's going to be the market to be for the next years. Fabio was mentioning the green hydrogen and energy, similar to Chile. 42% of the grid is already renewable, and they are investing heavily in green hydrogen markets. And of course, the solar irradiation in Chile is one of the highest in the world. If you like James Bond movies, you probably heard about Atacama Desert, and it was shot there because is what they have. Same with agri-food and specifically seafood. We've already worked with several American companies in the salmon industry, aquaculture industry, and I have to tell you, and this is a message I want to share with all of you by now, the level of local engineers is quite advanced. Like our experiences, some American companies were surprised with the actual level of the local engineers in both countries, Argentina and Chile, but specifically in the seafood industry, the level you will find is quite compelling in some cases. Like last year, we managed a project for a company from Maine, and at the end of the project, they said, Juan, this is amazing. The things they are doing over there is something we haven't seen in worldwide, and it was a company operating globally. So be ready to find really advanced companies, which is a challenge, but definitely also an opportunity. And specifically, we created this lithium and copper because, again, it's so big the opportunity, same with Argentina and with the well gas and lithium, that it's a must. In terms of geographic distribution when you do business in the country. Of course, Santiago, big hub, 40% of the population is there. We'll see the same pattern in Buenos Aires. And in the case of Santiago, most of the multinational are headquartered there. So even for regional corporate offices are there because of the stability. This is something that it's been moving back in the days. Like I'm old enough to remember similar situation in Venezuela. Like over 30 years ago, this hub was in Caracas. So because the situation is not the same, or it hasn't been the same for the last years, most of these regional headquarters moved to Santiago, eventually to Buenos Aires or Sao Paulo, but this is one of the big hubs. And that's why, in terms of FDI, is one of the big destinations and mostly a primary entry point for US companies when they explore the Chilean and the regional market. Then we also have, in terms of regions, Antofagasta, which is the mining capital. I will be sharing this presentation. Well, Emma will be sharing this presentation, so I'll go through that quite fast. But yes, you need to know that you have Valparaiso as Chile's main port, which handles the majority of the import-export. So when you are into moving goods, Valparaiso is a must. Also a beautiful city to visit and even to eat out. And Concepcion, as second largest city and most industrial, is also a point of destination depending on your products. In terms of bilateral trade, is growing, quite stable, and the most important thing is, well, what the US exports is by now Chile is the first import, sorry, the United States is the first import partner. That's quite relevant and determines what Fabio was saying. The American product is very welcome in Chile. Like it's you can tell there is a very good connection between the two countries, and this is the most important thing, it's been there for over 20 years. Like the preferential relationship with the trade agreement comes all the way to 2004. So there is a free trade agreement from 2004, zero tariff, trade in goods. So it's consolidated. It's very safe to do business. And of course, it's sustained in most of the products from Chile going with zero tariff, but it's benefiting. Here is one of the comments I want to make. There is a new government. Like, regardless, you shared some of his views. The thing is, the new cabinet is very pro-business. And this is something that benefits you because it will release a lot of opportunities in terms of investment, which will create demand for your product or services. So it's really well aligned with the current situation with the United States. So within the Latin American region, I would say both Chile and Argentina are very well aligned with the U.S. federal administration, which means there will be more stability in terms of tariffs or any other influence. So it's a good moment for your companies going into that market. So Jose Antonio Cast just assumed the presidency literally a month ago. Like, we are still finding out who is being appointed for like the new roles at the second level, but the line is very pro-business. Again, they are open to create more opportunities for foreign investors. So that's a good message for you, because once there is foreign investment, there is demand for product and services. Again, reasons, stability, zero barriers. They have money and they have future demand because of the minerals, so they are in the right side of the demand at the moment. And it's a hub it's a good base to operate, and your customers are in a good position to operate regionally. The key sectors, a bit more detail. I don't want to go in extensively, but just to showcase some of the main opportunities by sector. The wine, like if you go to the wineries, you will see that if you read the label, most of these wineries are owned by American companies. So even though they are Chilean wines, if you look at the corporation, it's American owned. So if you are already selling to to these wineries, you have an opportunity. But again, this is for your interest. I want to stay a bit more in construction and infrastructure because I've seen that some of the companies could be in the sector, and yes, there was a contraction because of the past government. They created some instability in terms of changes, and now we are expecting a big recovery in terms of construction. So there will be, and that's where we think it's going to be a big opportunity. The market entry strategies, this is the must for all of you. I will insist mostly in the case of Argentina to go step by step. In the case of Chile, depending on the level of your maturity of your internationalization, you could potentially skip some. No. And well, about us, that's not relevant. Just give me a second. Can you see Argentina? Sorry if I go too fast. It's just I don't want to take a lot of your time. Like we were saying, we will have one-to-one.
You're
Sorry.
doing great.
Thank you. So Argentina, well, my love country and home of some of you. So it's a country of contrast. Like you love it, you hate it, but you end up loving it. It's amazing. Like I remember last year, I was literally in the Obelisk Plaza with my wife, and in the middle of it, there was a strike, and we moved literally in a matter of minutes from a very peaceful afternoon into a bit of a crazy demonstration. Nothing happened in the end. Like luckily, nothing, not violence, but it was a big of a contrast. And we are talking the main street. But yeah, when you visit Buenos Aires, you realize any hometown is small. Like it's amazing. In terms of well, some data. The GDP we are talking third largest economy. Everybody will tell you the potential is much higher. Hopefully, at some point, they will reach the full potential. Is as Brazil, one of the largest countries in the world. So you don't realize how big it is until you are there, like just when you see the distance. And the most important thing in terms of consumers is a massive market. We are talking the third largest. Yes, it's only Mexico and Brazil. And even with a smaller population, some of the per capita ratios are quite good. So in terms of power of purchasing, is a market that when you reach the right timing, and this is the message I want to be very specific about Argentina. Argentina is about timing. Argentinian economy is a bit of a roller coaster. Like the ones that are old enough, like myself, to be doing business with Argentina, we've been up, down, and at the moment, I have to tell you, our views is we are on the right side of the wave. Like we don't know for how long, but for the time being, probably 1-2 years, we are pretty sure there's gonna be opportunities because there has been some years where the business were not so easy, and now it's becoming easier. So we see potential. Like again, be ready to live an experience, but it's definitely a worth experience. In terms of information that you probably most of it strategic location. The most relevant thing is the bilateral investment treaty with the United States that is being updated, and specifically the same way we talk about copper with Chile, you need to talk to shale gas and again other minerals in Argentina because the level of opportunities are brutal. Like we've already been working with Promo Argentina, and we will go into that later with the PG. They are passing new legislation to secure investment because the problem in the previous governments is there were not enough transparency for foreign investors. And now they are trying to create a framework that will justify largest investment, like in case of Vaca Muerta. Like we will go into that later, but if you go to the actual level of execution, the potential is almost more than 10 times what it is right now. So it can go exponentially. In terms of energy, just Vaca Muerta itself it justify if you are in the mining sector to be there already, even though it's the framework, the legal framework could be tricky sometimes. We are talking one of the world's largest oil and gas resources, and given the current situation with Hormuz, and we all know what is happening in the Middle East, having access to or privileged access to oil and gas within the Americas is going to be key for the United States. So it's clear that something is going to happen in Argentina because everybody wants to have access to the oil and gas and create less dependency to what is happening in the Middle East. So, as I said, we are talking good alignment. Lithium and mining in general, we said Chile is the second, Argentina is the third or the fourth. Like, we are talking the most critical minerals for what makes our life work, like our mobile phones, our computers, our electric vehicles. They rely on lithium and all these minerals, and they are extensively in both Argentina and Chile. So that's good news. Agri-food, we will go into more detail. Large is exporting in some of the products like soy worldwide. It's brutal. They have a specific logistic just for that. It's worldwide leader, and it means there are opportunities for your product if you have good quality because they have the money to buy for it. And something that eventually some of you don't know, but if you're in the tech industry know, is one of the most advanced countries in terms of tech and software. It's been outsourcing an offshoring place for the American companies for years and decades. It's quite consolidated. It's been tricky now and then for the payments because, and this is something I don't want to go into a lot of detail today, but currency change has been a bit of an issue for some years. No, happily it's getting more relaxed and by now. But the good thing is companies in the past already work it out, and there are ways to get paid and pay in when you do business in Argentina. Geographically, Buenos Aires, again, almost 40% of the population is around Buenos Aires, is the financial, legal, and tech capital. It's personally one of the most beautiful cities in the world. Like it's an impression. But in terms of beauty, you also have Cordoba, Mendoza, Rosario, which are again beautiful, and depending on where your industry is, it could be the destination. Just bear in mind, distance are much quite relevant. Like it's not that easy, but we will make it happen. In terms of bilateral, the most important thing is the trade relationship is not as consolidated as it is with Chile. The United States is only fourth largest, but is the largest investor, which is relevant, and we foresee an increase of trade relationship because of minerals and mining. This is probably what you've already heard. In February, there's been this new agreement for zero tariffs. Again, very much aligned with the current situations between the two administrations. So there are big opportunities for American companies at this stage. Like the market is reopening. This is something you need to understand. For years, doing business in Argentina was not so easy, mostly because of currency change. It was quite difficult. And well, there are some other tariffs and specific taxes that made it difficult. And the new administration is trying to remove all of them to create a more open economy. Sorry, and the United States is in an extremely well position to take advantage of that because of this alignment. I don't know if you heard that, but in the midterm election, the United States administration backed the current president. So it creates a privileged relationship, which you can see in this type of agreements. Okay. Again, that means, and again, I will say that with you, gradual elimination of statistical tax, which was a bit complex in the past, removal of some import licensing requirements and formalities, which was also a source of some corruption, to be honest. There was corruption around that with how they managed the foreign exchange. And sorry, the most key message, there's going to be immediate recognition for FDA certifications and US manufacturers with FMPWS. Okay. That's the message we want to share. Argentina is open for business. They are rebuilding the supply chain for years, something that you don't see in other countries because of these currency exchange problems and difficulties to access. Some of the mid-level in the supply chains disappear. Like mostly you go an importer, they imported it to different distributors that distribute logistically and then to the retailer. So what happened is because of the crisis, some of the mid-size intermediates disappeared. They didn't have the access. So what happened is something you don't see in other countries, that this retailer was buying directly. This is quite unusual because retailers don't want to be bothered with purchasing and managing. It's not the business. The business is selling to consumers. So because of that, there are not that many suppliers, or they are smaller than you can expect for the size of the economy. What is happening now? This supply chain is rebuilding properly. It just you will see new operators or operators that are smaller than you'd expect to be dealing with some of these big companies. Okay. Key sectors: oil and gas. Again, if you are in these sectors, this is the time to be there. We are talking the second largest shale gas reserve in the world, and they've only developed 8%. So look at the opportunities. Same with the other minerals, agribusiness, technology, and I want to be more specific in infrastructure. Because of decades of underinvestment, there is a lot of demand, and there is a good opportunity for you through the Exim Bank and the FCA committed. So that's important. If you are in this specific sector and in an alliance with the RIGI, it's a good opportunity. Probably you will not be managing these projects, but you will probably, your customers do. And it's a good time to do, because the new round of investment is needed. And because of your Americans, you will be backed by Exim Bank. Okay. RIGI, this large investment incentive regime, is mostly designed for both mining and infrastructure. Again, not something you will be dealing with directly, but your customers or your partners in the United States will be doing it, and eventually you can follow them. So the strategy is identifying who is accessing. Like, we can share with you the RIGIs because it has to go. This is a specific law. It's been passed because it gives this tax stability for 30 years. So one of the strategies right now is seeing who is being secured at RIGI or is being approved, and follow them, because they are going to be doing business in Argentina for the next years at a very privileged situation. Market entry strategies, we always suggest to follow this. And in the case of Argentina, don't skip. It's good to do the market validation, find the right local partner, use trade missions like this. Using the Delaware as an umbrella will definitely help you, and be ready to do some homework in terms of regulatory prep, and start small and scale fast. Like, don't try to skip. It's a market to be secure. Like in other markets, we say, no, just don't need to go to use these trade missions because you can go straight. In this case, it's better to go step by step, because it's a market of big opportunities, but it's also hard to navigate. So I think for me, I try to keep it short so I don't get too much, but happy to answer questions.